Thomas Alan Shippey is a British scholar of medievalism, of medieval literature, including that of Anglo-Saxon England, and of modern fantasy and science fiction. In particular, he is widely considered one of the world's leading academic scholars on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, about whom he has written several books and many scholarly papers. Youth Shippey was born in 1943 in Calcutta, British India, where he also spent the first years of his life. He was sent to a boarding school in England, and studied at King Edward's School in Birmingham from 1954 to 1960. When he was 14 years old, he was lent The Hobbit. Like Tolkien, Shippey became fond of Old English, Old Norse, German and Latin, and of playing rugby. Academic career. After Shippey's graduation in the early 1960s, he did not immediately start an academic career since the British economy of the time did not offer many jobs. Only in the mid-1960s did he enroll at the University of Cambridge, from where he graduated with M.A. in 1968. He was awarded a PhD from Cambridge University in 1990. In 1996, Shippey was given the Walter J. Ong Chair of Humanities at St. Louis University's College of Arts and Sciences, where he focused on academic teaching, research and publishing. He retired from there in 2008. From 2003 to 2007, he served as the editor of the journal Studies in Medievalism, and from 2003 to 2009, he was the president of the International Society for the Study of Medievalism. Fiction. Under the pseudonym of Tom Allen, he has written 2 stories that were published in anthologies edited by Peter Weston. The first published was the fantasy story King Dragon in Andromeda 2 in 1977. The second was the science fiction novelette Not Absolute in Andromeda 3 in 1978. Under the pseudonym of John Home, he is also the co-author, with Harry Harrison, of the Hammer and the Cross trilogy of alternate history novels. Shippey had earlier assisted Harrison in devising fictional languages for the author's Eden trilogy. In addition to writing books of his own, he has edited both the Oxford Book of Science Fiction Stories and the Oxford Book of Fantasy Stories, and reviews science fiction for the Wall Street Journal. In 2009, he wrote a scholarly 21-page introduction to Flights of Eagles, a collection of James Blish works. Tolkien scholarship. In late 1969 or early 1970, Shippey wrote his first academic work on Tolkien. He then held a speech at a Tolkien Day organized by a student association. This lecture, Tolkien as philologist, became also influential for Shippey's view of Tolkien. Joy Hill, Tolkien's private secretary, was in the audience, and afterwards she asked him for the script for Tolkien to read. On the 13th of April 1970, Shippey received a seemingly formal letter from Tolkien. The two, Shippey and Tolkien, first met in 1972. Shippey was invited for dinner by Norman Davies, who had succeeded Tolkien at the Merton Chair of English Language. When he became a Fellow of St. John's College, Shippey taught Old and Middle English using Tolkien's syllabus. Shippey's first printed essay, Creation from Philology in The Lord of the Rings, expanded on his 1970 lecture. In 1979, he was elected into a former position of Tolkien's, the Chair of English Language and Medieval English Literature at Leeds University. His first book, The Road to Middle-earth, was published in 1982. At this time, Shippey shifted from regarding Tolkien as a philologist to a traumatized author, as he called it. This would include writers affected by war like Vonnegut and Golding. Shippey appeared in several documentaries about Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings film trilogy. The dialect coaches were assisted by him, and Shippey received a personal mention in the closing credits. He summarized his experiences with the film project as follows: "The funny thing about interviews is you never know which bits they're going to pick. It always feels as if they sit you down, shine bright lights in your eyes, and ask you questions until you say something really silly, and that's the bit they choose. At least they didn't waterboard me. But it was good fun, and I'd cheerfully do it again." As an acknowledged expert on Tolkien, Shippey serves on the editorial board of Tolkien Studies, an annual scholarly review. Shippey's education and academic career have crossed paths in many ways with that of Tolkien's. Like Tolkien, he attended King Edward's School in Birmingham and both taught Old English at Oxford University. Shippey also occupied Tolkien's former position at the University of Leeds and was responsible for changing the curriculum that Tolkien himself had instituted. Bibliography. Books: Old English Verse, Poems of Wisdom and Learning in Old English, Beowulf, Arnold's Studies in English Literature series, The Road to Middle-earth, 2nd ed., also revised and expanded edition. Fictional Space, Essays on Contemporary Science Fiction, editor. The Oxford Book of Science Fiction Stories, editor. The Oxford Book of Fantasy Stories, editor. Beowulf, The Critical Heritage, editor, with Andreas Harder. Medievalism in the Modern World, Essays in Honor of Leslie Workman, editor, with Richard Utz. J.R.R. Tolkien, author of The Century. The Shadow Walkers, Jacob Grimm's Mythology of the Monstrous, editor. Roots and Branches, Selected Papers on Tolkien. Edited volumes. Medievalism in the Modern World, Essays in Honor of Leslie J. Workman, ed. Richard Utz and Tom Shippey, ISBN 2-503-50166-4. Documentaries. 1992, Tolkien Remembered Himself. 1996, J.R.R. A Film Portrait of J.R.R. Tolkien Himself. 1998, An Awfully Big Adventure, J.R.R. Tolkien Himself. 2001, Beyond the Movie, The Fellowship of the Ring Himself. 2002, Page to Screen, The Lord of the Rings Himself. 2003, J.R.R. Tolkien, Origins of Middle-earth Himself. Awards. 1984 Mythopoeic Award, Mythopoeic Scholarship Award for Inkling Studies, The Road to Middle-earth. 2001 Mythopoeic Award, Mythopoeic Scholarship Award for Inkling Studies, J.R.R. Tolkien, author of The Century. 2001 World Fantasy Award, Special Award Professional, J.R.R. Tolkien, author of The Century. 2004 The One Ring Celebration Award, Best Tolkien-based lecture presented at an academic function, History in Words, Tolkien's Ruling Passion. 2006 The One Ring Celebration Award, Best Lecture Paper,